We'll call to order the regular Board of Supervisors meeting for Tuesday, June 26, 2012. We will start with an invocation by Pastor John Rowland from the First Baptist Church of Cottonwood, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Supervisor Hartman. Pastor?
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, in keeping with American tradition and precedent, we begin this Board of Supervisors meeting with an invocation, a prayer for your blessing on these proceedings. I come today pleading to you for a divine wisdom and insight as our representatives deliberate over civic, society, and life-sustaining matters. I likewise invoke your blessing and protection on the families of these servants of the people. And in closing, in keeping with the popular song which is sung so often in public events, I specifically fit it for our county today. God bless Shasta County, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. And I offer this invocation in the Lord's name. Amen.
Please join me in the salute to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Supervisor Hartman. We'll now move on to the public comment period. Speakers may come forward and give their name if they wish. Each speaker is allocated 3 minutes to speak. Comments should be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the board. Pursuant to the Brown Act, action or board discussion cannot be taken on open time matters other than to receive the comments and, if deemed necessary, to refer the subject matter to the appropriate department for follow-up and or to schedule the matter on a subsequent board agenda. At this time, I have one person requesting to speak, Mr. Gary Cadd.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, staff, ladies and gentlemen. I come forward this morning to, first of all, to thank the board and staff for the issue R1 that Mr. Lees will be talking about as soon as I sit down. But I did want to step forward and to reiterate what we have been asking for as far as the videos online, and that is that to video all board meetings, whether it's the Board of Supervisors, Air Quality, Water Agency, whatever they are, all those meetings would be put online, and then also to put online the Shasta County Planning Commission meetings that would be also videoed and put online. So I just wanted to reiterate those things. I know that the editorial this morning in the paper, and thank Mr. Ross for that article, the original costs when considering the city of Reading were nowhere near $40,000. They were probably just a little over half that amount to originally sign up, and then there is a monthly cost that the city of Reading is paying. But I called the city this morning and got the figures just so that I would know exactly what they were. But we do thank you for this time. And while I'm here, I also would like to mention that I'm going to be leaving the meeting this morning as soon as we talk about this issue. Fred Reines, who ran for supervisor in District 3, has been in a car accident last night. He's in the hospital, and I was going to go over and be with his wife for a few minutes and talk with them. So if those that pray, probably wouldn't hurt to pray for Fred, because I understand it's sort of serious. And so I would go from there. So I would just thank you for this time, and didn't do my 3 minutes. So thank you much, and looking forward to Mr. Lee's comments.
Thank you, Mr. Cadd. I do have one other speaker this morning, Sherry Henderson.
Good morning, Chairman Modi and members of the board. My name is Sherry Henderson, and I am a Shasta County resident, and I live on Riverland Drive. On June 16th, my neighbor's mobile home caught fire. Our other two neighbors, Mark grabbed another neighbor's garden hose and started spraying the flames. In May, she called 911, then grabbed her garden hose and was spraying the mobile home until the fire trucks arrived. In our neighborhood, they are heroes. Also, I want to say thank you to CAL FIRE and the Anderson firemen that arrived very quickly and put out the fire. They were respectful, considerate, and quick in doing their responsibilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. That's all the speaker requests I have. And we'll move on to the regular calendar. R1, received an update from CEO Lees regarding posting board meetings on the internet.
Great, thank you, Chairman Modi, members of the board. I did want to provide an update, not looking for board action at this time, but I did want to provide an update and make one correction that was printed in the newspaper today. As most of you know, when I first took the reins as CAO back in 2006, one of the first things we did was meet with the clerk and some people from a company called Granicus to determine whether or not it would be feasible for us to have some online meetings. And yes, it would have been feasible, it would have been expensive, and it fell to our priority list as the budget at that 2008 started to wind down. Because of the recent focus, we've gone out again and started looking at ways to be able to accomplish this and get into this, get into the ability to where we can provide this service. And so we have got, we've actually, about 3 months ago, we started negotiating with Channel 11, who actually provides the cable service or provides this board meetings on charter cable. And recognizing that not everybody has that, they had offered to create a online website where folks could access the meetings via the internet. Now, we spoke with them recently to find out where they were with that, and they said they're about 4 weeks away from that. In the meantime, there's a gentleman who is the CEO for A&E Computers out in eastern Shasta County, and his name is Hollenbeck, Mr. Hollenbeck, David. And we've talked with him, and he has also offered to sponsor the server that would host a link to our board meetings. So they are both, Channel 11 and both Mr. Hollenbeck, have offered to do this at no cost to the county as a public service, and so we appreciate that. I very much appreciate that, and we look for that to start happening probably within a couple of weeks. It'll take us a couple of weeks to get it up and running, but both those will be hosted at no cost to the county. Will we go further? Yeah, we'll continue to look at ways to go further and see, to fine-tune, to make those adjustments. As mentioned today, there was talk about other meetings. Of course, our air quality meetings and water meetings are incorporated into this meeting, so they would all be covered. But there was, there was talk of the Planning Commission meetings also, and certainly I think that would be an ideal opportunity to test our in-house cameras. So without paying somebody to come and tape those meetings, we'll test our in-house cameras, create that feed, and maybe try it there to see how those can be used. Again, we're looking at ways that we'll be able to provide the service, but also keep our costs down as we look for ways to prioritize. Again, not looking for board actions. Be happy to enter any questions or comments, but we are going to go forward with this, and because it's no cost, we'll move pretty quick. That's all I have.
Supervisor Baugh.
Thank you, Mr. Lees. I already expressed my thanks to Mr. Hollenbeck, but I'd like to do so publicly just to thank him for stepping up to the plate, stepping out as a private citizen, noticing a request. He had been watching the meetings on air and communicated with the county and said, I can do this and I'd like to help. So I just want to say thank you. That's a big deal. Appreciate it.
There was one correction that I wanted to make that was in the editorial, and I'm sure I must have said it wrong, and it's not Bruce Ross's fault of what he heard. But I do want to clarify the record is there's a sentence in there, a line in the editorial that speaks to going live in about a month, something like that. We're actually not going to be going live at this point, but we are going to have it up and running within a month. But it won't be a live broadcast of the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Lees. Move on to R2, a presentation by the sheriff for his volunteers. Sheriff Basenko.
Good morning, Chairman Modi and members of the board. Tom Basenko, Shasta County Sheriff. We are very fortunate in this community to have community involvement and volunteers at all levels, not just only the sheriff's office. For the sheriff's office, we have many volunteers and volunteer groups that allow us to carry out our responsibilities to the citizens of Shasta County, and in some cases, these groups offer some expertise, such as mountain rescue and high-angle rescues, and they bring their hobby and skills and apply it for the sheriff's office in search and rescue. And these volunteer groups donate countless hours each year to the sheriff's office, and I'd like to recognize them for their significant contributions to the county. The various groups are the law enforcement chaplaincy, and they offer minister to law enforcement and their families in time of need, and also to the community. And they assist the Shasta County Coroner's Office in delivering news that a loved one has passed away or been killed in cases that involve the coroner, and those are very difficult situations for families to receive that news, and they assist them there. Our Citizen Volunteer Patrols, or CVPs, there's currently 8 Citizen Volunteer Patrols throughout the county, and they include the communities of Bernie, City of Shasta Lake, Cottonwood, Fall River Mills, Happy Valley, Shasta Lake itself on our boating area, Old Shasta, and Shingletown. In 2011, these combined units worked nearly 12,000 hours, drove nearly 32,000 miles, and conducted over 6,000 business checks and 3,500 house checks and about 500 welfare checks. And a welfare check is going in to look on someone's well-being if maybe someone's concerned that maybe they've either fallen or they haven't heard from them in a few days and they want to see if they're doing okay. And that helps, all of these things help take a load off of our patrol personnel, which is stretched very thin. But these individuals, they're not law enforcement officers, they care about their community, and they act as our eyes and our ears so that if they do see something suspicious while performing a business check, out on patrol, or doing a vacation check for homeowners while they're away, then they're able to give us a call and we'll respond. And they also assist in many parades and events with some traffic control issues, and they've assisted us in the past with many of the wildland fires when we're doing evacuations, either at roadblocks or taking out food and water to our personnel out on the front lines. Our CVP coordinator, Arnie Britton, has worked nearly 800 hours and processed and trained and sworn in 26 new volunteers this past year, and arranged and conducted 4 neighborhood watch meetings and attended many other citizen volunteer patrol meetings. He remains very active and covers a lot of miles in the county. If someone wants a neighborhood watch program, he's very willing to go there and do it for us. And he's arranged and conducted CVP sergeant and lieutenant meetings, worked with the sheriff's office staff, and he has been there since day one when the CVP was established many, many years ago. And the John Rowland, who was here giving our invocation, he was also one of our original CVP members in Cottonwood. Our Explorer program consists of 11 volunteers. These young men and women are actively support and assisting in many areas, which include search and rescue, logistical support, some clerical roles. They also assist us in parades and other events as well. And these are young men and women who may be interested in a law enforcement career or public service career. And they have, some of them have become our cadets that also go out and serve subpoenas and assist us. And some have also gone on to a career in law enforcement. So we're very fortunate to have them and their interest. Our reserve program are adults who go through special training, much like a regular law enforcement officer, to assist and augment our patrol units. They also do work special events, critical incidents, and crime scene protection and preservation while our full-time members are processing the scenes. The Asphalt Cowboys are very involved in the community in a civic organization, and they are considered part of our volunteer groups, and they're their very own entity, but they routinely are available to assist the sheriff's office if necessary for either special events or emergency incidents and cooking up meals, and they can be other than pancakes and sausage. And they've are generally available and also assisted us in doing fundraising to purchase canines for our organization as well. And clerical support, just about everything we do is reduced to paper. And the clerical support who in our records unit, the coroner's office, animal regulations, and patrol operations, we have volunteers that come in there, and they're a great asset to our office and to our community. And then our search and rescue is a huge unit with various posses, and they come from all walks of life, and they're really the backbone of our search and rescue unit, and we could not do the job if it was not for them. And they consist of a dive team, dog team, communications posse, Eastern Flying Posse, Western Flying Posse, a ground team, a Jeep Patrol Posse, Jeep Auxiliary, Mountain Rescue, Mounted Posse, Tracking Team, Rescue Dirt Riders. And these are, the Rescue Dirt Riders are motorcycle enthusiasts for off-road, and they've assisted us greatly, especially in wildland fires, in mapping the leading edge of fires and then getting out on some of the back roads and areas to assist us in evacuations. Also, this Thursday at noon, we're having a volunteer recognition luncheon. You're invited to attend, and many of you have in the past. Please come by, and we'll be recognizing some of the special volunteers and all the groups there, and it's at the Veterans Hall down near the post office. So the services, these volunteers are mainly supportive of sheriff's office functions and assist many times can be for community organizations as well. And they do this all on their own, and many of them are full-time people that have a full-time job, and sometimes they're called away from that job and still to perform this function. So I applaud them. Some of them are here today. Could I have our explorers stand up with their full-time team leaders here as well? Thank you. Members of our Citizens Volunteer Patrol. And Claudia Bertram right on the end there. She is just doesn't volunteer for Citizens Volunteer Patrol, but also does it on Shasta Lake and is a member of our Search and Rescue Jeep Patrol as well. So thank you, Claudia. And Arnie Britton, where are you? Stand up, please. Thank you for all your dedication to CVP, Shasta County Sheriff's Office, and our communities as well. Thank you. And we also have our Flying Posse volunteers in the back, and from Bernie as well, so thank you very much for coming down. I appreciate it. Let's give all the volunteers a big round of applause. That concludes my presentation. Any questions?
Well, thank you, Sheriff. I'm sure there'll be some comments here. For myself, I'd like to recognize and thank the volunteers. I know in this time of limited resources, we all count on our citizens to come forward and help us, and certainly I know the Sheriff's Office, you've done that for not only through the difficult times, but this has been something that's tradition in the Sheriff's Office for, a long time, probably 50 years or longer.
Yes.
So I applaud you for keeping up that effort, and I want to applaud our citizens for giving up their time. Supervisor Baugh.
Thank you, Chair Modi. Sheriff, to you and to all the volunteers who are present and those who couldn't make it today, just a thank you. I know that you're very much appreciated in my work in District 5. I especially want to just recognize, as you did, Sheriff Arnie Britton. He was my recognition as Citizen Volunteer of the Year in 2007. A well-deserved recognition. Arnie, I just appreciate you. You not only cover District 5, but you cover the entire county, and you are appreciated. Thank you.
Supervisor Hartman.
Thank you, Sheriff. It's really my honor to say thank you to all of those that volunteer. We certainly recognize and appreciate the tremendous amount of hours that you put in for our community, and so many of you do it for many years, and it's such a large part of your life that you commit to helping out your fellow citizens, so I just want to thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Sheriff. We'll now move on to the consent calendar. The following consent calendar items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They may be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member, staff member, or interested person may request an item be removed from the consent calendar for discussion and consideration. At this time, I do not have any items to remove from the consent calendar.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second, and I just wanted to single out for recognition item number C29. It's an agreement between Shasta County Public Works and Caltrans for improvements on Highway 44 and Black Butte Road. Shingletown thanks you. I thank you from District 5. Appreciate your work, Mr. Minturn.
Supervisor Kehoe.
Thank you, Chairman Modi. I have some observations under discussion, primarily for Mr. Lees. The consent calendar contained numerous items. Most of them were renewal agreements or amendments to agreement. Now, the aggregate was about $7.5 million. And it seems to me, Mr. Lees, that it would be of value, since these are renewal agreements, to just have a short sentence or two on how these vendors have performed in the past.
Part of the board report.
And so if we could introduce that into these board reports, I think that would be of value to all of us.
That would be easy.
Great idea.
See no other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. That's all it takes. Move on to R3, regular calendar, the Administrative Office report and Board of Supervisors report. Mr. Lees.
Nothing to report.
Okay. Do you wish to talk about the letters?
But, well, I was juggling in my mind because the budget trailer votes, the budget trailer bills go to vote. They were heard yesterday and today, and they're going to vote tomorrow on the Senate Assembly floor. And so I was just deciding, do I want to talk about that or not? And so as I was thinking about that, I forgot the letters that we had posted. We're looking for the board's concurrence. Number one, Supervisor Ball asked us last week if we would facilitate another letter of interest as it relates to our fire fees, the SRA fees, and just reiterate our position as a Board of Supervisors to make sure that they do understand clearly that we have not lessened our stance on what this fee is really about and the impact of it. And so we are looking for board consensus on this to reiterate our position that has already been actually established by a motion and a second earlier in this year. So I'd be looking at consensus to go ahead and send this letter again. That would be letter number one. So
Yes.
No consensus.
And thank you very much.
you're welcome. The second letter is in the state's attempt to try and save money, which we certainly applaud, one of the things they're looking at are vehicles and equipment that does not get a lot of use. We had heard from a neighboring county that there was a talk from Caltrans about maybe reducing the amount of snow removal equipment that they had on the roads. I thought it would be important to give the board an opportunity to submit a letter to Caltrans letting them know the importance of the rural parts of our community, which are heavily impacted by snows. And we're talking about state highways here, 299, 44, both east and west on 299. And so we wanted to just make sure that they understand Shasta County's position in that we believe this is a necessary and important safety function to make sure this equipment is available as quickly as possible when the snows do hit. And so we'd be looking for consensus on this. A vote. So we'd be looking for a vote to send this letter on.
Pleasure of the board.
I'll move approval of sending the letter, but under discussion, I have a question to Mr. Lees.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and second. Discussion, Mr. Kehoe?
Mr. Lees, if the state of California eliminates their snow plowing equipment and we have a serious storm, how are those roads going to be opened?
Well, first of all, they're not talking about eliminating it. They're talking about reducing it. But to further the question, so there's other opportunities. Certainly, they might be able to contract with the counties around there that they serve. They might be able to contract with private individuals. The problem that I see with that is that there would be significant time lapse in being able to accomplish that. And we're talking about things that need to be, you know, when a snow hits, we need to be able to get on it right away. So I would be concerned to the safety aspect of the time of being able to do that, so.
Thank you.
You know, it sort of strikes me a little bit of that penny wise, pound foolish.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the issue here is this is equipment that's paid for. There's probably a maintenance fee that they're paying, and certainly I'm sure it's a fair amount of money over the period of years and stuff. But it's kind of like, you know, if you've got that used car that's paid for in your garage, it's pretty cheap to change the oil and keep it going, rather than, you know, than to sell it and then have to buy something new or buy something else when you're ready to do it. I can just see where this is a situation where they're trying to save a few dollars, but in the end, when the catastrophe hits and they have to go out on a crisis mode, hire people to, it's going to cost them more than it is for the maintenance of the equipment. So I just wonder sometimes kind of what they're thinking about down there.
Mr. Lees, what would happen if, as a follow-up to this letter, we were to invite the local Caltrans representatives to come in to our meeting in 2 or 3 weeks and give us an update on what they intend to do? I mean, how are they going to plow the roads?
We could certainly do that.
Okay. We have a motion, so any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
It carries. Thank you, Mr. Lees. Moving on to supervisors' reports. Supervisor Hartman. Supervisor Ball.
Thank you, Chair Modi. I'll bring up 2 items today. I mentioned to you, I think several months ago, a board reorganization on Nortec. We had a special meeting last week that accomplished the first phase of that, and there were 2 primary reasons for reorganizing Nortec. One was to comply with federal law, and the other was to reduce operating overhead. While there are other reasons, I think that those reasons will be accomplished. And the final portion of it will be accomplished in about a month from now, as other applications are received and approved to sit on the board. I will also give a shout out to the Cottonwood Volunteer Fire Department. A great barbecue over the weekend. I'm hoping that because of the great attendance that a lot of money was raised for the fire department, and I just want to thank those who serve on the Cottonwood Volunteer Fire Department for your efforts and for literally placing your life on the line. Thank you.
Supervisor Kehoe.
Thank you, Chairman Modi. Sheriff Prosenko, Mr. Lees, and I attended the Camp Love-A-Pet graduation day sponsored by the Haven Humane Society, and this is a program where young people come in and they work with the dogs for a week, they train them, and then they have this great graduation ceremony, and as you know, we provide them with certificates of completion. I will tell you that the high point of that ceremony was the presentation of the Vince D'Amato Award. Mr. D'Amato recently passed away, and to honor him, he was a board member, to honor him, they presented this award to the outstanding student that participated in that program, and that award was given to Sophie Harris. So it was well deserved, and she was thrilled to receive that award. And it was really moving. Second thing I'd like to mention is that was on Saturday morning. Saturday afternoon, I went down to Red Bluff to attend the Support Rural America Sheriff's event. And Sheriff Prosenko was there. He made an outstanding presentation. It was well balanced, it was heartfelt, and it was most enjoyable to listen to what he had to say. The other sheriffs made presentations also, and let me briefly summarize what their concerns were in Northern California. Number one, they were supportive of coordination with federal agencies, specifically the Forest Service. 2, they exhibited their firm support for the Second Amendment. 3, they spoke in favor of property rights. 4, and this I found interesting, there was an exhortation to hold the media accountable for a complete reporting of what goes on at these functions. Number 5, they wanted to increase timber harvest levels, specifically with the Forest Service. 6, concerns about water. 7, concerns about the county, state, and federal debt. Number 8, AB 109, that's the realignment that we're immersed in right now. And finally, they expressed concerns about excessive debt at all levels of government. It was well attended, and the participants were enthusiastic about their presentations, and likewise, the audience was very enthusiastic. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Supervisor Keo. I only have one question for you. Did you adopt a pet while you were there? I think you need a cat.
It was my pleasure to sign you up for not 1, but 2 animals. And if you can see Dr. John, he's expecting you today.
I'll do that as long as you'll pay for the food.
I'd be pleased to.
I had the opportunity to attend the opening ceremonies for the American Legion, who held their convention, their 94th convention here in Reading. And so on behalf of my fellow supervisors, I had the opportunity to welcome them to our community. Supervisor Hartman was there as her role for the Veterans Home. But it was just another opportunity for us, I think, to recognize our veterans and show our appreciation for them. And I think they felt pretty welcome from all the people that came and spoke. So it was a great, great event. We'll move on to item R4. Adoption of the fiscal year 2012-13 budget resolution and adoption of the fiscal year 2012-13 salary resolution, schedule of positions, allocations, and the county salary plan. Mr. Lees or Ms. Palin? Ms. Palin.
Good morning, Chairman Modi, members of the board, B.B. Palin, County Fiscal Chief. You recall that we conducted budget hearings on June 6th, and at that time, by consensus, you approved the recommended budget from the CEO. I believe on that day I talked quite a bit. I don't plan on doing that this morning, but there are a number of actions that we need to take in order to adopt the budget that was approved by consensus. The first on here is to adopt a resolution which will approve committed fund balance. This is something, a GASB requirement. Prior to the close of each fiscal year, we have to adopt a resolution for committed fund balance. There's only a couple of committed fund balances which are covered by that. And it's really just a function that we have to do every year. In addition to that, we're going to ask you to adopt a resolution which will relieve accountability for a loan advance to the Shasta Redevelopment Agency. This happened back in the late 90s. At that time, it was believed the redevelopment agency function was a part of the CAO's office at that time, along with LAFCO. And it was believed that if we didn't have a debt of some type, then we would not get any increment from the redevelopment agency. In effect, it just paid a portion of the employee's salary at that time. Since then, this loan has actually been accruing negative interest because there's no money in the fund, and we've actually been looking at a way to relieve this for some period of time. So with the abolishment of redevelopment agencies, it seemed to be the opportune time to ask the board to go ahead and relieve both the accountability for the loan as well as the negative interest. Altogether, there's $79,713 was advanced to the redevelopment agency, and to date there's a little over $27,000 in negative interest which has accrued to that. If you'd like, I'll just go through them and you could ask me questions if you have.
That'd be fine.
Would that be fine? Then there's 2 interim construction financing loans, which we approved over a period of years. One is for CSA 23 Cragview Water. This is an improvement to the water system that's been continuing for a number of years. The CSA had to incur the expense before being reimbursed, and rather than go out and get outside loan, the General Reserve has advanced the money. To date, we've already advanced the entire $500,000 to Cragview Water, and as the money comes in from the financing, which is from the state, then that loan will be repaid with interest.
Do you have a timeline for that? Is it like within a year or two?
Is Pat, perhaps Pat could talk about the timeline on both of the loans here at this time.
Good morning, Pat Minturn, Public Works Director. Yes, we should have started receiving reimbursement already. We're 3 invoices behind right now. The contractor goes out and does the work. He's building a new water treatment plant up there. Then at the end of each month, he submits a progress pay estimate. We approve it. We pay out of the county coffers, submit that reimbursement request to the state. It goes through the state process and should come back. Right now, they're 3 months behind. So we're maxed out at $500,000, but I anticipate that we should be getting a payment hopefully within the next couple of weeks, and so we'll tread water in the $300,000 to $500,000 range until the end of the project, and the project will be completed this fall.
You say we are behind, you mean we as in the state? The state's behind in paying us, or we're behind in submitting that?
The state is behind in paying us.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And do you want to talk about the timeline on the next one?
Mr. Minturn, how can that fiscal lethargy be resolved? I mean, this is a burden on the county treasury to move ahead in this manner.
Yes, sir. We somewhat knew going into the process that there would be some delays. Actually, we've processed 5 pay estimates successfully and gotten reimbursement from the state. So the turnaround has often been known to be in the 45-day range. Here we've slipped beyond 60 days at this point. But for better or worse, it's how the state does business, and since we're getting approximately an 80% grant, it was the best deal that we could come by.
Thank you.
I think Ms. Palin thought you might comment on the timeline on the next one too, which is the Jones Valley Water Elk Trail System improvement, the timeline on that.
Yes. Actually, on that one, the grants have been turning around much quicker. For whatever reason, it's exactly the same program, but they have been turned around typically in under 30 days. In this case, the county is backstopping an UMQA revolving loan. So the UMQA loan, we were limited to a certain amount, and so we also obtained a portion from the county general fund. So first and foremost, we're using the UMQA loan. So the county loan is mostly just in a standby mode, and I don't think we've had to use it because the state has been so quick in turning those around.
And when do you expect this project to be done?
Approximately November.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Minturn.
Okay. So the interim loan for Jones Valley, the Elk Trail Water System, is for a maximum not to exceed $1 million and also to be repaid when the grant funds become available and at the pooled treasury interest rate. So there's no detriment to the county general reserve to make these loans as needed. Our next item is to adopt a salary resolution, and this is to actually make the changes that were recommended with the proposed budget. There's a net addition of 7 positions. There's some increases in public safety, but we went ahead and memorialized the positions that we're leaving with the RTPA at the same time. In addition, there were a couple of positions deleted from the Intermountain Fair and one, I believe, from child support. There were also a couple of title changes only. We went ahead and memorialized the change of the county administrative officer to county executive officer, and there was a name change in a position in information technology to an information technology web designer. There were a couple of other changes that just basically had to do with some technical corrections to name changes or bargaining units without any change in compensation. And last but not least, to adopt a resolution which adopts the fiscal year 2012-13 budget. It also adopts the the schedule of position allocations by budget unit. This is required by the state controller, and also the county salary plan. And these documents are also then provided to the state controller, who keeps the list of all of the counties and cities' positions and compensations on the state controller's website. So those are the actions that I'm asking you to approve, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions of Ms. Palin? Supervisor, well, did you want to speak, Mr. Lees, first? Go ahead.
I was going to wait for the vote.
Oh.
I came before everybody.
Well, it's whatever you want to do.
I'll go ahead. I just wanted to point out a couple things on here. And again, this is not new. This is what was adopted June 6th by this Board of Supervisors. But there are a couple significant things here. And that is, if you do the math on this, you'll see that current list of employees, although we talked about the allocations that are there, current list of current number of employees within Shasta County is 1,593.5. No jokes about me being a half employee. but the significance of that number is that we have not been at that level of employment in Shasta County probably since the mid-90s. It may be before. And again, the reason I bring that up is that here we are at the lowest level within at least a decade or two of staffing, and yet we're still required to have more and more mandates. We're required to provide more and more services, and I think it just speaks volumes to the level of employees that we have here in Shasta County that continue to put those that they serve first. And again, you could say that and it sounds good and it feels good. We had great employees. But I like to bring in this data, 1,593.5. That is the lowest number that we have seen in probably 15 years here in Shasta County. That is significant. And yet we have more and more that's been heaped upon us. So we've just got a great, strong employee base that really do care. And specifically, Ms. Palin and the analyst, Amy Pettis, as well as Julie Hope, Elaine Grossman, and Megan Dorney, that have put this budget together. Increasingly, it becomes more difficult every year, but yet here we are, again, working with whatever the state deals to us, and we've been able to stay with a balanced budget and not borrow. We're not spending money we don't have here in Shasta County. So I just wanted to make that point.
Thank you, Mr. Lees.
And
Supervisor, go ahead.
if I just wanted to clarify that the number that Mr. Lees told you, that's our actual allocated positions in addition to the numbers that are vacant at this time. Is that what, did I miss that?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what you mean. That's the
We actually have 1,837.5 FTEs, but we had a number of positions that are vacant, which is the highest that we've had in the years I've been doing this, 244 vacancies.
Yeah, right, and that's the other component of it, is typically we have about a 10% vacancy rate from our allocated positions to what's really FTE, what we really have. And right now, instead of 10%, we're about 13.5%, I believe. So.
Because departments are having to hold positions vacant just to live within their means.
And trying to determine, keep in mind, we just had a healthcare increase cost 10%, which is significant, obviously, and we don't know if we're through with that yet. Now, just so you know, the department heads and Ms. Palin, as well as we want to give credit to our auditor's office, Connie Regnell and her team, because they're the ones that do all the ensuring that the money is what we say it is and what they say it is. and they're the ones that make the adjustments as it relates to where these costs are, how they're going to impact us. And when we were asking back in January and February, when we were asking departments, you kind of have to just take your best guess at what the state's going to be doing, what the economy's going to be doing, what PERS is going to do, rate increases and things like that. We determined that we would throw out about a 10% cost, to ask departments to include a 10% cost increase in healthcare rates, hoping that that would, cover it. And we actually thought that that would give us a little wiggle room. Well, as it is, it came in right at that same amount. So we're going to be just at the wire in this year's, in the 12-13 budgets, in compensating for those increases. So the bottom line is we're there. We planned for those increases, but there's no wiggle room in there at all.
Supervisor Ball.
Thank you, Chair Modi. I had hoped to draw out the same exact issue. I just will add to it that it speaks highly to the management and every employee of Shasta County that every service that is needed and required by law and more is being taken care of for the citizens of Shasta County in a very efficient manner, in a well-done way. So thank you. My hat is off to all of you. I will add just a private musing here, perhaps a call to Governor Brown to ask if he'd like to add, maybe write a personal check for repayment of the interest and debt with the redevelopment agency. Just thinking.
Supervisor Kehoe.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Modi. To clarify then, Mr. Lees, the 1593.5 figure represents FTEs, that full-time equivalents. And you're saying from that 1593 figure, then we're down through attrition 13%? No? Well,
No, that actually, that includes the reduction of the 13. We have allocated positions of 1,593 plus the 244 vacancies that we have.
okay. So the authorized FTE level is 1593.5 plus 244.
It's 1837.
No.
No.
Our allocation position, our allocation position is 18.
That's what he said. He said the 1593 plus the 244.
Yes, that's
Right.
correct.
Thank you.
The
Sorry.
1843.
1837.5 is what our actual position allocation
Okay.
authorization list will be with the adoption of the budget. So if, is that clear? Not clear?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Kehoe?
That's it. Thank you.
I just have one question. Is it too late to cut IT's budget by 20%? Oh, hi, Charlie. How are you?
Wow.
Is your iPhone not syncing up?
Your desktop not working.
I just didn't want Charlie to feel left out. Any other questions? Is this something we take in one motion, Mr. Cruz?
Yes, this can be taken in one
Thank
motion.
you. Pleasure of the board.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the staff recommendation on all 6 items. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Palin.
Thanks.
R5, request for authorization for discharge of accountability from our treasurer tax collector.
Good morning, board members. Lori Scott, Treasurer Tax Collector. One comment before I start. We're always looking at wanting to save taxpayers' money. Well, the biggest way to save taxpayers' money is to say thank you to all the taxpayers that pay their taxes on time, because it saves us an awful lot of money. I'm here, as I am every year, to ask for a relief of accountability on the unsecured taxes. And I want to go over a little bit of history, because this happens only once a year. Every year, we send out about 13,000 unsecured tax bills that cover businesses, your boats, your airplanes, hangars for the airplanes, gold mines, things like that, and delinquent mobile homes. These go out around the middle of July, and then they go delinquent on August 31st. We send out delinquent notices after that, reminding people they haven't paid. Then if they haven't paid, then on November 1st, we file a lien against the person or business. That lien stays in effect for 10 years. At that point, we continue trying to get a hold of people and get them to pay. We place holds on the boat registrations, so if they want to go out and use our lakes and everything, and they need their little green stickers, they have to come in and pay their taxes, or DMV will not release the green stickers. We then seize bank accounts, if we can locate people's bank accounts to try to obtain that money. We seize the state income tax returns. These are things that we've done and we've accumulated this whole procedure up to this point. We are looking at the next few years for businesses that sell liquor, both on and off sale liquor, being able to put a hold on their liquor license if they choose not to pay us. We are also looking at going in on some businesses, if they're not paying us, to go in and seize inventory, whether it be their inventory to work their business or things that they sell, seizing that to get them to pay, and possibility of even selling that inventory. All of this happens with a lot of communication with the taxpayers. It isn't something they aren't aware of. And so after the 10-year period, when we cannot collect these amounts, then I come to you each year asking for a relieving of accountability. That's relieving me as the tax collector of that accountability. It does not relieve the taxpayer from that accountability. Going over and looking at the stats to give you some information. This morning we looked at how Shasta County is, how they compare to the rest of the state of California. The average of delinquencies for the state of California are 95.7% as collected. Shasta County collects 96.9% of their unsecured bills. Each of my staff, of the ones that we do not collect, each staff member, which I have 5 staff members that work on unsecured amongst their other jobs, they have an average of 120 to 150 accounts that they're working continuously on this. Taking a look at how we compare to the last couple of years when I've come to you and asking for the discharge of accountability, we can't compare to last year because last year we did a cleanup. But going back and looking at 2010, I came and asked for a relieving of 596 accounts. This year we've cut that in half. We're only asking for 281 accounts. The dollar figure between those two, we've reduced it over $22,000. So we're doing much better of collecting, still doing better than the state average. So I'm here to ask for that relief of accountability, and if you have any questions, I'm here to answer those.
Mr. Kehoe?
Thank you for your presentation, Ms. Scott. Will you again, for the benefit of those in the audience, explain the sentence under discussion that you have bolded? The only individual that we're releasing from accountability is your position.
Right.
The debt still exists.
That is correct. Every year, the tax collector is charged with these debt by the county auditor's office. And so when I come here, this is basically aging the accounts and relieving me of the collection because we find that we can't collect it for statutory reasons, or we just cannot locate the people and the money. And so, but the taxpayers are still responsible to make those payments.
Again, for the benefit of those in the audience, the amount of relief that you're speaking of this morning is $76,082.36, and then with the penalties, that bumps up to $84,000. You know, you talk about communication during this 10-year period with the taxpayer, and I guess that's the problem, isn't it? They're not taxpayers.
That's correct.
And then at our last visitation to this matter, the board was concerned that we do not do business or should not do business with individuals until they have satisfied their tax obligation. And I think that's a straightforward, valid business approach. And so I assume your staff looks at that when compiling these lists?
We've had calls from the CAO's office when they're doing business with businesses in this community and finding out if there's any delinquent taxes. So we have done checks for the CAO's office.
Thank you, Ms. Scott.
Any other questions? Pleasure of the board.
I'll move approval.
Thank you. Moved and second. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Scott.
Thank you.
R6, a approved purchase of capital assets for the Shasta Interagency Narcotics Task Force fiscal year 12-13 budget amendment. Sheriff.
Good morning again, Chairman Modi, members of the board, Tom Basenko, Sheriff. This is a purchase for the Shasta Interagency Narcotics Task Force. The task force is comprised of members of the Shasta County Sheriff's Office, Reading Police Department, Shasta County Probation, and the California Highway Patrol. They address local level drug trafficking and sales, and also processing of labs if they come up. There has been a recent uptick in lab activity in Reading, one of which was related just a few blocks from here at a fire that Reading Fire Department responded to. A few years ago, the State of California Attorney General's Office, Department of Law Enforcement, Bureau of Narcotics Enforcement had budget reductions of approximately $32 million, I believe, that resulted in huge cuts to the Bureau of Narcotics Enforcement. As a result of that, there was only 18 narcotics task forces that survived throughout California. CENTIF was not one of those. We regrouped and went under a local command here at CENTIF. There is a Bureau of Narcotics Enforcement task force for Butte County, and there is one in Siskiyou County. With losing the Bureau of Narcotics Enforcement involvement, they had a lab truck assigned here to Reading. That lab truck is no longer here, and then also the lab truck, you still have to have trained personnel for it. I'm a board member of the Shasta Interagency Narcotics Task Force, and the Shasta County Sheriff's Office is also the grant administrator. The board for CENTIF did approve a purchase of this trailer, and then we were assisted by county purchasing and went out to an RFQ. This would be a custom-built trailer. We looked at it better than a truck to where we don't have to maintain a drivetrain because all of our agencies have pickups that can pull this trailer. And then it would be equipped with specialized equipment to handle drug labs processing. Those labs are not processed by fire departments or through the county SMRT team, which handles